Welcome back to Ripple Effect Connection. I'm your host, Christy Hugic, and today I'm joined by someone whose work I've admired for years. Leanne Venier is a former mechanical engineer who once designed submarines for Lockheed Martin and is now a world-renowned pioneer in the science of light and color therapy. Today we're diving into the luminous world of light, color, and healing with someone who bridges science and art like no other. Her journey is remarkable. I need another podcast just to go through all of her accolades. After leaving engineering, Leanne immersed herself in Eastern medicine and energy healing and discovered the profound effects of color through her internationally acclaimed artwork. Blending her scientific expertise with this deep knowledge of energy medicine, she went on to create the groundbreaking REDjuvenator Quantum Light Therapy device. Leanne is a 5-time medical award-winning inventor, and her REDjuvenator has received global recognition for delivering results far beyond standard red light therapy. Today, it's used by thousands of doctors and practitioners worldwide as a full-body anti-aging and healing technology. Her work has been featured in Forbes, Entrepreneur, and Men's Health, and she's spoken at SXSW, Mensa, and major medical conferences, bridging art, science, and ancient wisdom in a way that is both practical and profound. In our conversation, we'll explore her fascinating journey, the science behind color and light, what makes the REDjuvenator so unique, and how harnessing these energy systems in the body can support healing, vitality, and emotional balance. Get ready to hear how Leanne Venier connected the dots in her life's work to become a true beacon of hope, healing, and innovation. Leanne, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for making the time to be here today. I'm honored to have you.
Christy, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to have our conversation.
I always start with the foundation of everything. So, Leanne, I'm going to start with my big question I ask every guest. What is your why?
What is my why? Well, I think my constant throughout life, my why has always been to learn, explore, connect the dots, and then share. That's kind of been the one constant throughout all these various things that I've done throughout my life.
How did you get into the natural healing space? Like, how did you gravitate to this area?
I was very anti-pharma as a child. Not anti-pharma because I probably didn't even know that term, but I come from a family of pill poppers, very turbulent upbringing, lots of screaming and yelling, dysfunctional, not processing emotions in a healthy way. So most of my family members were always popping pills to medicate themselves. And I grew up in Canada where you can get codeine, or you could, I don't know if you still can, but codeine over the counter. It's a very strong drug. So we always had a big bottle of codeine in my kitchen broom closet, which is where all the medications, a whole shelf of medications was. But I wouldn't take anything. My mother, when I was little, she would want to give me children's aspirin, like if I had a sore throat or fever or something like that. She'd always and I'd be like, no, I'm not taking any pills. I just would not let her give me any pills. And I would just be like, my body will fix itself. I just knew at a very early age that it wasn't a good thing for me or people in general, I think.
And then your philosophy on healing, health, and how energy comes into the picture. What is that translated to for you in this day and age?
Well, that also started at a very early age. I didn't know that I was any different from anybody else, but I've always been very energy sensitive, and I'm what's known as a kinesthetic empath. I feel what other people are feeling. I feel physical pain. I feel physical, emotional energy blockages. I feel what other people are feeling in my own body, which was a big problem growing up and not knowing what was going on, when I would be perfectly happy and then I'd be around somebody's energy field and I could feel what they were feeling, even though their mask might show that they're smiling and happy, but I'd feel what they were feeling inside. So that connection with energy has kind of also been a lifelong constant. And I used to work with energy as a child, not really knowing what I was doing, and then I spent several years in Italy doing a lot of training and fine-tuning of my abilities within the energy realm. The color and light stuff kind of came along later. Still decades ago, but because I used to draw as a child and I would always draw in black and white. I never used color, which I thought was kind of interesting. I realized that after the fact. When I was still working at Lockheed as an engineer, I did this course. It was an adult extension course. It was the most bizarre thing because they only offered it this one time, and it was these two women that came in. Her husband was in the CIA and had been in these programs that we're hearing more about now. Anyway, she was teaching I guess a parapsychology. It was like using untapped aspects of the brain, what most people are typically not tapping into. And one of the exercises that we did during that, I don't remember, like 10 weeks or something like that, probably 10 or 12 weeks, however long the thing lasted. They put up all these colored panels, like just construction paper, brightly colored construction paper all around the room. And they just told us, go stand in front of each one of those and see what comes up as you stand in front and look at each color. And that was the first time I had this very vivid awareness of how strong an impact each individual color has on us physiologically and emotionally. And that was kind of my beginning exploration into the whole color and light realm. And again, that was several decades ago. So before I moved to Italy, and then I moved to Italy and I spent 7 years studying all kinds of alternative healing modalities. I left my engineering career, thank God, and moved to Italy and started a business there. And all my spare time was spent studying and learning various healing modalities. I started with herbology. I'd already been using herbology in the States before I moved to Italy, and using that as an exclusive means of, treating and healing anything that I had going on, because I had really bad recurring ear infections back then. But then when I moved to Italy and I had this whole, it was such a common thing back then, not anymore, because, pharma's taken over there as well. So it's really hard to get bulk herbs like I used to be able to. So I used to make all my own formulations, and I started making formulations for other people. So I started off in herbology, got very intensive into that, making custom formulations. Then I started getting into more subtle energies. I started using essential oils more for the psycho-emotional aspect, then into Bach flower remedies, which is kind of like a homeopathic remedy, although not exactly the same thing, and using that for psycho-emotional healing, and then getting more and more into the energy medicine realm. I studied the whole chakra system, then how color correlates with the different chakras, and then Eastern medicine. So, and there's a lot of stuff in between there as well, but energy medicine and pranic healing. And I was basically teaching myself, because there was nothing to study from, teaching myself a vocabulary and just spending hours and hours, working with energy and moving energy and all of that kind of stuff. That's kind of very, very, very Reader's Digest condensed version of all of it. So it wasn't until I came back to the States, I started studying Eastern medicine on my own, but in Italy, you could only study acupuncture if you were a medical doctor. It's very restricted there. So I don't know if that's still the case. But anyway, so I came back to the States, not with the intention of studying Chinese medicine and Eastern medicine. I came back to the States. The universe guided me to come back to the United States. And within a few months of getting back, and I went to Austin at that point, within a few months, I serendipitously came across the Eastern medicine school there. And the bells started going off. I always get my very strongly guided by my either intuition or what I call downloads, where I get very clear messages about what I'm supposed to do next. Intuition is kind of like general feeling. Downloads are like very clear, specific messages, instructions. And anyway, so I knew that was what I needed to do. So then I went back to school for Eastern medicine, acupuncture, Zen Shiatsu. Zen Shiatsu having a very strong correlation with the color aspect. And so I ended up learning how, when we are out of balance in certain energy systems or parts of our energy system, we're drawn to certain colors over others, or we are repelled by certain colors over others. So fast track that, finished all of my acupuncture and Zen Shiatsu training, moved up to British Columbia to finish and do more of a 5 elements approach, which is really because the TCM schools were completely getting rid of all the TCM, traditional Chinese medicine, is post-communist Chinese medicine. So it's gotten rid of all the origins of Chinese medicine. So I'm much more Japanese medicine and other aspects that haven't, completely eliminated all of the psycho-emotional. Because for me, it was always about the psyche and the psycho-emotional root of illness. I mean, going back again to when I was a child and realizing the correlation between illness, disease, and imbalance and psychological, psycho-emotional well-being. So I moved up to British Columbia to study and get more in-depth focus on 5 elements, which is the interaction of the elements within the energy system just kind of trying to explain it in a nutshell. And the importance of color and the psychological aspects, the bigger picture spirit aspects of, what is our path and purpose in life and how that correlates with each of the elements, and then the physical symptoms that are associated with all of that. But anyway, so then I connected the dots between all this other stuff that I'd already been studying, connected it with the chakra system and all these other ancient healing modalities, my own research. And then I ended up, it was raining all the time up in British Columbia. So I finished studying what I wanted to study up there, and it was raining. And I'm like, I'm either going to come back to Austin or go back to Italy. I decided to come back to Austin. And that was where I started a healing practice there. But I was kind of like, don't tell people. Whenever my patients would come and say, I told my sister or my father or whatever. And I'm like, don't tell more people about me. And I realized I didn't want to do the one-on-one healing work anymore, because I'd been doing it for so many years. And the whole time I was in Italy, the business I started was a language school. So English as a second language for business professionals and entrepreneurs and medical doctors. So those were I wasn't teaching children or anything like that. But because I was studying all this stuff, and I'd always have a big stack of books, and people would come to my home and do our one-on-one lessons or sometimes small group lessons. And they would see what I was studying, and they would be like, oh my God, what is that about? So we'd have our conversation in English about that, and then about what they had going on for their health. And then can you make me a formulation or a herbal? So we would start off with herbology formulations, and then Bach flower remedies, and then kind of go up from there. So I kind of had this built-in clinic trick with my students that were, my guinea pigs. So that became their lessons. And they're very engaged because they're talking about themselves, and they're motivated to be able to express themselves that way, instead of, like, oh, Jack went to the movies, or like boring stuff like that. So it worked out really well for them, and then for my own learning, because I got to practice everything that I was studying on real people. And then after, like I said, British Columbia, coming back to the States, Eastern medicine, Zen Shiatsu, going to British Columbia for 4 or 5 elements. I also had a healing practice in British Columbia working with cancer patients. So that was where, when I came back to Austin and had people without even trying, I'm not like putting a shingle out. I just have to go to social events, and people are telling me about their health problems. And I'm like, do you mind if I check a couple of points on you? So I check acupuncture, and they're like really blocked. And I'm like, are you experiencing this, that, or, they think I'm, reading their minds. I'm like, actually, your body's telling me what's stuck and what's out of balance, and what physical symptoms you're probably experiencing. So anyway, so that would be like, I want to come and get a session from you. And then I had more people, and I was like, I don't really want to do the one-on-one stuff anymore. I still wanted to help people. I just didn't want to be doing, I don't want to be your primary care provider. I want to teach you how to be your own primary care provider. Yes. And I'm happy to do that. And that's what I was also doing with the cancer patients, that when I was in British Columbia, it was all about learning how to tune in and, understand where those blockages were coming from in the first place. Because cancer is nothing more than toxic overload, stuck energy, and depletion of life force energy. Like, you're basically like a car, your gas tank gets lower and lower and lower, and from stress, poor diet, stuff like that, psychological blockages that can go back to early childhood, or even, ancestral. And it creates those energetic blockages that then stop the free flow of energy. And that is depleting your gas tank more and more. So people will have the snowballing effect, where they'll start off with one symptom, maybe early in life. Maybe they start off and they have digestive problems as a child, or constipation, or they're always catching colds, things like that. And then it will snowball and get into and affect more and more the aspects of the energy system. And so as they are getting more and more blocked, and their life force energy is getting more and more depleted. And a big part of that is people don't spend enough time out in nature. I mean, we're in these cities, we're stuck indoors, we're in these hermetically sealed environments, where we go from, an air-conditioned or heated house, to our air-conditioned or heated car, to our air-conditioned or heated office where we're working. So it's very common. I mean, not in my case, because I always had to be outdoors. I've just, always be, and that was like a lifesaver for me, having so much trauma early in life. And I was outdoors all the time, because that was kind of like, that was what would help me to keep my life force energy charged up. So as people get more and more depleted, and then they go the Western medical route, and then they start taking pills, pharmaceuticals, that sort of thing, and then that gets more and more toxic and more overloaded and more bogged down in the system, kind of like this quagmire effect in the body. So cancer is just where the body's like, I'm full of toxins, my life force energy isn't moving, isn't circulating, and my gas tank is running on fumes. So then, because cancer cells, everybody's developing cancer cells. So it's only when the body is so far out of balance and depleted that the cancer can grow and turn into a tumor. Same thing with a parasite overload, things like that. Your body is like, if it's in balance and it's healthy, it will not host those things that throw you more out of balance. Same thing with viruses, or HPV, EBV, herpes, zoster, shingles, herpes 1, 2, any of the things that are common diagnoses where people, it's like, this is my diagnosis, I've got these problems because of this virus. It's like, no, the virus isn't the problem. Use shingles as a good example, because shingles is the herpes zoster virus that can be in your body latent, since you had chickenpox as a child, the same virus. So it can be, kind of just hanging out in the background, not doing any harm, not causing any issues whatsoever, until the body starts to get depleted and life force energy starts dropping out of balance. There's blockages, and usually liver, gallbladder, energy system. That's, stress related. That's why people will see these things, like cold sores, herpes 1 will flare up when people are under stress. Same thing with herpes 2, shingles. But anyway, the shingles virus has been in the body for, decades in many cases. So when somebody's in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, they get their first shingles outbreak, and it's like they think it's the shingles is the problem. It's like, no, the shingles isn't the problem. The shingles isn't a symptom of an underlying root problem. So you don't have to treat the symptom. You want to treat the underlying root so that you're not hospitable for, like when the cat's away, the mice will play, like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
cat back. So the mice can't be like wreaking havoc in the house. So basically that's it in a nutshell. But what happened when I came back to Austin, and I was feeling depleted myself from studying so much for so long, and working with patients and not recharging my own batteries, another metaphor I use. I was feeling like I just need a break. I need to focus on getting into flow myself, getting into that zone, which is very healing. And I, throughout my life, I always had something that I would be able to do to get into flow, whether it was spending a lot of time outdoors or playing the piano. I trained as a classical pianist, or drawing or writing, or any of those activities that I had been doing a lot of prior to this intensive study period and then working with patients for so long. So I decided to take a beginner painting class at the community college. And having never painted, but drawing and not using color, again, it was the weirdest thing, because I would just, draw in black and white or charcoal or one color. Like if I had one pencil, it happened to be, but it wasn't drawing with color. So I wanted to work with color, and I wanted to get into the zone and just create abstract paintings. I wasn't interested. I already knew how to draw. I'm like not interested in painting a bowl of fruit or painting a model, or, like I can already do that if I want to draw. And then if I want something more lifelike, I was also into photography. I'll take a picture, so I'm like, I want to paint abstracts. I want to get into that zone where you're creating, because my favorite painters were abstract artists, Kandinsky and Jackson Pollock, and Picasso's more abstracted works, and Miro, and anyway, a long list, and Rothko. So I took the beginner painting class and started painting in class. And because of the fact that there were a few of us, that we said, can we go up and do our own thing in this other classroom that's adjoining? It's a longer story of that, but the serendipity aspect of how we were doing this class at this facility that was owned by the Austin Museum of Art, because they don't have enough classroom space at Austin Community College. So they would have overflow classes at this Laguna Gloria facility that was owned by the museum. beautiful sight. And we had 2 classrooms for this painting class. And the teacher said, yeah, you guys can go off and do your own thing and I'll just come check on you. And so that was where I started painting abstracts. But every time I'd start getting into flow, into the zone, the teacher would come and check on us and start, and conversation pulls you out of the zone. And I'm like, oh, just go to the zone. And now I'm like, and she would come and provide zero useful information because she's a realist painter. So she didn't paint that. She didn't know anything. But anyway, so I started painting at home, and I only had one room in my home where I could either see patients or I could paint. So at first I was switching it up. Okay, I'm going to paint now, and I'm going to turn it back into a healing room, and I'm going to paint now. And then I'm like, I really have to make a decision. And I decided to keep it as a painting room. And so I started dealing with patients altogether. And then at the end of that class, we had a one-night exhibition, which is unheard of for a beginner painting class. And again, longer story about all of that, but so many things, the stars aligned to make these improbable things happen. And one night painting class, and I brought in the abstract paintings that I'd been creating at home, and I got so much attention from all the art faculty, the head of the art department, well-known artists that were, teaching there, and picked for the big multimedia exhibition and then I got the download. Now you need to become a full-time professional artist. That was a down, and I'm like, that's not going to be interesting enough for me to be a full-time artist. But I always follow what my downloads tell me, so I got a studio space a couple of months later. And then, a few weeks after that, I put up a website with just a handful of images, like very rudimentary. Like I don't know anything about SEO. It was like on an artist, platform. So you don't have to build a website, because the woman in the class, who was already an established artist, who happened to be taking the class just because she wanted to meet people in Austin. That's the only reason she had taken the beginner, because you can't jump to experienced painter level at the community college. You have to do 101, 102. Anyway, I put up she's like, you need to put up stuff on the website. And I'm like, I've only got like 10 paintings. It doesn't matter. Just put them up. So as soon as I did that, I start getting all these emails, people contacting me about my paintings. I'm like, how are you even finding me? Like, there's a bazillion websites out there. And I'm not, I don't do anything. An international curator in Italy, where having nothing to do with me having lived in Italy for 7 years, she reaches out to me and invites me to this international exhibition. It's like, there's only, I don't know, like 20 artists in the whole thing from all around the world. And I'm like, this is so bizarre. And then I get picked as the featured artist in this international design magazine. I'm like, are you like trying to sell me an ad? Or like, no, we publish 4 times a year. We want you to be the featured artist. And then, no, it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to we interview you. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like getting all this attention for my paintings. And I'm a beginner artist. So then I have a studio, and people are coming in. We do open studio events at this. I was in this big facility. I picked a place where I would have, like other artists to hang out with. And so we would do open studio events. And I was getting all this recognition for my paintings. And that was where the conversation started, where people would like have these strong responses to the color in my paintings. And I would tell them, well, if you're really strongly drawn to that color, it may mean you've got this going on in your body and this going on in your life. And that was where it's like, oh my God, that's exactly what's going on in my body and my life. How do you know that? And then I would start explaining to them, we use color as a balancing tool, and our different energy systems are correlated with different, colors and all this stuff, and the dots that I'd connected. And I pretty much came up with this whole diagnostic method where I could tell like what colors people were craving or feeling repelled by, what was going on in their body. So everybody's like, oh my God, where's the book? I want to read the book. And I'm like, there's no book. It's in my head.
It's up here.
The whole color thing started, just people pestering me literally for 3 years after these one-on-one conversations. And I was also doing a lot of radio interviews. Again, all this was people just finding me. And people are like, how are you getting so much recognition in the art world? I mean, like, I went to art school. I struggled for so long. I can't. And I'm like, I just paint, and people, I don't know. I don't do anything. People find me. So, and getting international awards, and just, I mean, on and on and on, and picked for the Hunting Art Prize and stuff, just like these all like a long list of all this bizarre, all these synchronicities. So, I mean, they're not bizarre, because when you're putting out that energy, you're basically attracting, like attracts like. So that was where the one-on-one conversations then led to, 3 years of people pestering me to kind of put some of this stuff on my website. And when I did that, I thought I was done. Thought it was like, okay, good. Here, I put it on my website. Now, leave me alone. Well, now it's on the internet. So then I started getting contacted by major medical universities to come and lecture and teach the medical doctors and the medical students about the science behind the healing effects of color and light. Because I'm like, it's not just color. The way that I need to explain scientifically how this all works is by explaining the electromagnetic spectrum and our connection with sunlight, because sunlight has all these colors within it. So that's the root of why color that's on your wall or on a painting or on your clothing has this effect, because color and light are synonymous. But the sunlight has all these colors within it. Nobody was talking at all about colors within sunlight at all. Like nobody, and it was still very early. People had just started talking about the vitamin D connection, UVB. So people were like, sunshine has some benefit. It's not just cancer causing, which everybody had been fear-mongering into thinking for, well, like at least a couple decades at that point, where it's like the sunlight will give you cancer, put it on toxic sunscreen. And anyway, my first lecture at UT Health Sciences Center in San Antonio, which was another completely oddball serendipitous thing that I even did that. And again, they, invited me to come and have an exhibition of my paintings with the color and light teaching component. And normally they do these combined things where there's some kind of art component with a healing component, and they do these exhibitions at the UT Health Sciences Center. But because of the fact that the curator and her husband came up to my gallery in Austin from San Antonio to see the paintings in real life, and as they were leaving, he says to his wife, he says, she has to give a talk. And Penny said, well, we don't give talks. They just do an exhibition and the learning part. And he's like, no, she has to give a talk. You can't just do read the stuff on a paper. So she's like, do you want to give a talk? And I said, I'm gonna have to learn PowerPoint. That was the first thing. But anyway, I immediately knew, yes, I need to give a talk. So that was where the whole lecturing about color. And again, light therapy didn't even exist as an industry. It was not in existence. At the time, there were a couple of like handheld devices. The beauty industry had realized that light, has these benefits for the skin. So there were a couple of very, very expensive handheld things that you could put on your face and move it around that were just red light. But in physiotherapy, they'd been using lasers for treating knee injuries and things like that. But again, lasers, very, extremely expensive, hundreds of thousands of dollars or however much these things cost, with months of training to be so you don't kill somebody with the laser. Anyway, but so the light therapy industry did not exist. So it was through my teachings that and nobody was using it for therapeutic, like home use. There was nothing. I couldn't find anything. In Russia, actually, no, in Russia, they'd been using light therapy, but not so much home use as medical establishments. But then that all got pushed out as Big Pharma kind of took over there as well. So that was where I started connecting all this disparate research and connecting, teaching people how color and light are the same thing, why we respond to light this way, that all the colors within sunlight have these healing benefits, then bringing in hardcore research, which had been around since the late 1800s. It wasn't new information. But just all this stuff had been suppressed, because the Western medical Big Pharma, take a pill, suppress a symptom, had been the model that was pushed. And anyway, so I started, teaching, and it was just people approaching me and asking me to come and give a lecture. And, then I did after UT Health Sciences Center in San Antonio, and that had a lot of people from the lay people community as well, because they put it out, it got publicity on television and newspaper and stuff like that. So there were a lot of people at that lecture, and then everything just kind of precipitated more and more. And then I got invited to bring the exhibition to UT Southwestern Medical Center in Dallas, which has 10,000 people. And then after that, there were all these things happening at the same time, also with my art, because I wasn't getting paid to do the lectures. But whenever I would do a lecture, that's what I was passionate about, sharing and teaching all this stuff that I'd learned. Whenever I would do a lecture, I'd sell a bunch of paintings, completely unrelated. There was no crossover between this world, people wanting to learn about health and healing, and the high-end art collector world, which is where I was selling my paintings. So I'd do a lecture, sell some paintings. Good job, here's some money for you. So I was funding my ability to teach about all this stuff through my artwork, which is very opposite of what most people do. But also when I got the download about now you're going to be a full-time professional artist, I just said, okay, well, I'm not doing this whole starving artist thing. I'm just rejecting that whole notion. I'm just going to, I'm going to be a very successful, highly paid artist. So that was just the intention that I set. And then everything fell into place along those lines. And there were a lot of opportunities that I had that I said, thanks, but no thanks, because that's not in alignment with this path. So, but that's where it all started. And then Mensa conference and South by Southwest Interactive and a bunch of medical conferences, the Bulletproof Biohacking conference. For 10 years, all this stuff was going on for 10 years. And my teachings that I was putting on YouTube, also lectures, people were seeing the videos and then they're writing all these blog articles about this. So the whole concept of using light for healing is like spreading like wildfire from just, a handful of these videos and interviews. And I was doing a lot of magazine interviews and things like that. And it was all stemming from my paintings. That was the catalyst for all of it. That was why I called my website Catalytic Color. And then for 10 years, everybody's like, oh, you need to, because there all these light therapy devices start flooding the market. Now it's not just these little handheld things for your skin. People are starting to realize, okay, well, you can use it for boosting energy and stuff like that. So more and more stuff is starting to come on the market. And all very superficial type of treatment stuff, because light therapy can only do so much. And people are emailing me constantly, like, I saw your videos and I went on the internet and I went to buy something and I spent $6,000 on this thing, and it not only didn't help me, it made me feel worse, and now I can't get my money back. And I kept getting email like this. What do you recommend? What should I buy? And I'm like, if I could find something that I would be happy to tell you. But I've been experimenting and trying out all these, devices that are coming, and they're all falling short. They're either like really poorly designed or they're going to harm people or whatever. And I'm getting approached also by these companies that are doing the internet marketing, trying to get presence, and, they're basically jumping on a growing trend. I had literally been refusing for 10 years because I had medical doctor friends that were like, you need to make your own light therapy device so people have something that actually works. And like, you're like an engineer, you design submarines and you do all this stuff with healing. And it's like, you created this whole concept of using light. I didn't create the concept of using light for healing. I introduced the concept of like, you can do this for yourself in your home. And, that was where all these home use devices started, flooding the market, either ineffective to actually harmful or nominally effective, a little bit of, but with a lot of effort, a little bit of benefit. And, and I'm like, I'm happy to consult with somebody and give them tips, and I had a meeting with the former CEO of Walmart, that my friend of mine who's a director of hematopathology for one of the big medical universities. He hooked me up, and I'm like, these are my ideas. I don't want to have anything to do with the manufacturing part, and you can take it. And they're like, oh no, you need to be at the prototype phase. And I'm like, I'm not interested in that. I didn't want to make my own product and sell anything. I just wanted to teach people. It's like somebody can make a thing, like make a good light therapy device, except it was becoming increasingly apparent that more and more ineffective and very expensive and like many very harmful devices. And I got approached by 3 different companies back to back in 2016 when I'd already been invited at the beginning of the year to speak at the Bulletproof conference in September, October of that year, end of September, beginning of October. And they had wanted me to speak the year before and the year before that, but by the time they reached out to me, I already was booked at that time. So in January of 2016, they said, we just started to plan the conference. You're the first speaker. Can you come and speak? And I'm like, yes. Okay, I don't have a schedule. They're like, they have they do this giant tech hall where they have all these vendors that come in, biohacking vendors. And I didn't have a product at all that I was selling. I was selling my paintings, but that's not a bio, it's like, that's a completely different thing. So in a completely different world, in the art world, fine art world. So they're like, do you want a booth? We rent these booths for like $4,500. And we'll give you a booth for speaker. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't have anything to sell, but I'll do some kind of interactive display and, use it as like a teaching booth where people can have this interactive experience with color and light. And then the universe has this way of conspiring to, like, which I've done throughout my life. You've always been guided in all the stuff that I've done and moving to Italy and all the things that I've studied. And everything has definitely had this divine guidance. And I just said, okay, I'll take the booth. And then I had literally back to back, 3 different companies that were selling their version of light therapy. One was a sauna, being branded as an infrared or near infrared sauna, and another one, a light therapy device that was like basically an industrial plant grow light, where you could buy it on Alibaba. Literally, that's where they were getting them and putting like attachment hardware on it so you could hang it on a door. And then another one that was doing a thing where, goggles to shine green light into your eyes. And all of them are like, they're like, can we send you our thing? And then we want to pay you a bunch of money to endorse it. But what happened in all 3 of these cases, these were all going to be nominally beneficial, but also potentially very harmful to a lot of people, and in 3 different ways. So I'm like, oh, now people are using my teachings to create things that are expensive and harmful. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't care how much you want to pay me. I'm not going to tell people to buy that thing because it's going to literally be harmful to a lot of people. Again, not that I hadn't gotten the download to make my own light therapy line before, but I was just like, nope, don't want to do it. Don't want to do anything that feels like engineering. Don't want to sell anything. I don't want to sell. I just want to teach. I want to help people learn and take back power for themselves. But anyway, that was kind of like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back kind of thing, where I finally said, okay, well, what would be involved? And my idea when I met the Walmart CEO, it's like, for what needed to be done. I'm like, you know what? I'm an engineer. One of our basic tenets is that you take things and repurpose them. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. You take something, and I did that at Lockheed all the time. I was the only engineer that would do this. I would go, when I was working on the submarines and the DSRVs, deep submergence rescue vehicles, I would go back to the shop and I'd say, hey, this is my design idea. These guys that have been working in this field for 20 or 30 years making parts. And I'm like, I want to do this. I want to make this part, but how hard is it going to be for you to make this? And then they'd be like, oh, really challenging, but we have this thing that we already make and we can tweak it. And I'd be like, perfect, let's repurpose that and I'll put that in my design. So that was kind of where I understood the value of not reinventing the wheel from scratch every time. So I'm like, okay, I don't need to do, whole thing in a prototype. I just need to find a jar for my recipe. And I also knew it's like, there's no point in making another light therapy device. There's already hundreds and hundreds of them and more flooding the market. We're probably in thousands now. And because light therapy alone doesn't provide the healing benefits that you need. You need to address the energy medicine component. You need to address the energy body, not just treat the mitochondria in the cells and the tissue and the skin and, maybe depth of penetration where it's going to get a little bit deeper and do something internal. You need to address the energy body system and fill up the gas tank. Light therapy isn't going to do that. It's not going to open up blockages in the energy channels. That's a huge thing. Again, where cancer will grow, it's where there's a big kink in the hose. It doesn't do any of that. It maybe does sound like it'll accelerate healing of, skin tissue and things like that. And so I'm like, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to, it's going to be an energy medicine product with light therapy as an adjunct to it. Synergistically, they work together. So I use the analogy of you get in the Ferrari and you can drive from Texas to, wherever, I'm trying to think of it, what's it? So Michigan, wherever you want to go, California. So you can take that vehicle and it will take you from point A to point B in your journey. A Ferrari also has a steering wheel, just like all cars have a steering wheel. So the steering wheel plays a role, but if you take out the steering wheel by itself, there's only so much you can do with the steering wheel by itself. You can't drive it from point A to point, B. The REDjuvenator that I ended up launching is like the whole Ferrari, whereas a light therapy device is just like the steering wheel. So the light therapy component of the REDjuvenator is like the steering wheel, but the rest of it, the energy medicine component, is the rest of the Ferrari that takes you from point A to point Z in your healing process. But anyway, so because I had this booth at the Bulletproof conference, and I had these three back-to-back companies that were selling and pushing a product that was going to be like using my teachings to sell the product and harm people, and a lot of false advertising also, and also not even knowing the scientific research themselves, especially the blue light thing. That was like your blue-green light. It's like, are you aware of the fact that that actually harms the eyes, that frequency of light? And they're like, oh no, well, we're exempt from the blue light. Blue light we know is harmful. It's like, yeah, the blue-green is also harmful. Anyway, I was like, what would be involved in doing this? And, I'll make a light therapy quantum healing device. But I'm like, I basically need a jar. I need the container. I need a container that, to put my recipe in. I don't need to invent the container. I use the analogy of this famous chef, San Francisco restaurant that has this amazing pasta sauce. If you want the sauce, you have to go to the restaurant to eat the sauce, with the pasta. Everybody's like, can you please put your sauce in a jar so I can buy it in Idaho or, England or wherever? And finally he's like, okay. So, but he doesn't invent the jar. He focuses on making a really good recipe, and then he shops for a jar. It's like, oh yeah, I like this jar, I like the shape, it opens easily. Anyway, that was what I did. Like, I just need a good jar. And so I found a 1 foot square, 1 inch deep silver, and I'm like, this is perfect because it covers a large surface area. It's modular. I can turn it into a whole bed thing if I want. Oh, there you go. She's got it's you got to get it
blurring. That messes it up, but
yeah, there you go. And so that that's what I ended up putting the recipe in. And I reached out to 2 companies and I said, can you take this and put this in it? I do the energy medicine component, but they like, I need somebody to make the physical thing with the lights. And they're like, yes, we can do that. And well, one I ended up working with, and I said, now, can you get it to me in 5 weeks? Because I want to launch this at the Bulletproof Conference. It was literally 5 weeks before. So all of that, all the things that fell into place, and it's the night before I'm leaving. And I'm talking to my neighbor, like, if they come after I get here, can you FedEx them to me? But anyway, they did. They arrived the night before I was leaving. So we're ready. So we set up an interactive booth where people just got to experience them. And we couldn't keep up with the orders. So, and I did a pre-launch. So I didn't, everybody, it's kind of like a Kickstarter thing. You place your order and you're going to get it 5 to 6 weeks. So that was how we launched. And it's the history is, yeah. And then ever since then, it's all been word of mouth. I've never spent a dime on advertising to this day. I don't advertise. I don't have an affiliate program. I don't pay anybody to promote the product. It's all you guys that spread the word. And all the people in the community that just like are, I take care of the people in the community and they take care of spreading the word. I don't ever have to sell. I don't sell. Even when people email me and they want me to sell them, I'm like, look, watch these videos. If it resonates with you, I have them here. You can order. So I don't ever try to convince people.
And what I want to stress for everyone listening is that Leanne is just telling you like an amazing story to hear. You talked about connecting the dots. I mean, this is totally connecting the dots, because if you don't know the engineering part, if you don't know the energy medicine part, and you help us, and I mean, even just understanding of treating meridians. I remember the first time I gave it to a client of mine who's a professional athlete, and he's had kidney stone problems like his whole life, right? And he's got bad thumbs. And when he was treating his thumbs, his back would hurt. When he was treating his back, his thumbs would hurt. So what I want to stress, and I know you're not necessarily going to say this, but I am. This is not the average. This is not the red light that you can get anywhere else. And so no one else is combining all of this. And you, of course, it's proprietary information. It's your information. You can only tell us so much about what you're doing, but I have experienced it. And just a real quick story for our listeners so they understand I walk the walk when we're talking about this, is my husband, and you'll remember this too, Leanne, because I know you really liked seeing the pictures of the results because you have amazing success stories. My husband got bit by a brown recluse spider, immediately just not feeling well right away. We did some charcoal. We put some charcoal on the, yep. We did some charcoal, and then we used the red light. And I mean, he did not have a scar. He was better in less than 24 hours once we started that. And so this is legit. And I think that's why it was important to me to have you on, is that's what I do on this podcast. I can tell them what I do. I want to tell them why I do this, and I want the person who created it to tell them why it's so special. Why is red, and I know there's other color lights that we're going to get into, but why is red kind of the foundational one? And I know others hope to mimic this, but why is red the foundational one, and what is the value of it?
Well, red, and I talk about the foundational aspect all the time in the community because I do have other formulations that are only available to people that have the foundational universal formulation, because it's kind of like building the foundation to a pyramid or a house or any kind of like tall structure. You want to have a good, strong foundation. Red is the root color of root chakra in the five element system. Root chakra being the most physical. It's all about survival, basically being able to survive in this world, survive in this physical bodies, like anything that has to do with survival, finances, but it's the most physical chakra, the most rooted chakra. If you know Maslow's hierarchy of needs, this is kind of a good analogy because I made this analogy several years ago. People that are like, they can't buy food for their families, they don't have a home. You can't talk to them about, transcending and being, this evolved being and raising consciousness, because they just care about, I need to eat, I need to feed my children. That's what they care about. You have to take care of basic needs first, the physical body, the physicality, and that's from the root chakra standpoint, which is, again, it's about survival. It's about procreation also, but like propagating the species, sexuality, all of that is tied with root chakra. From a five element system, it's heart, it's the fire element, which is heart, blood. Your heart is the pump, that keeps the blood pumping through your physical body. And then from a psycho-emotional standpoint, it's a very important aspect as well. That the emotion is joy, and but there are so many different, I've done a number of different videos kind of like talking. There's a whole video that is just all about the foundational aspects of red. I mean, most people just have a number 3 unit, the universal, which does all of this amazing healing in the entire physical body and the psycho-emotional aspects, opening up the energy channels, filling up your life force energy gas tank. So it creates that very strong foundation for people that only get one formulation. And I launched with 4. I have the 1, the 2, the 3, and the 4. The 1 and 2 formulations, almost nobody ever gets, because the number 3 formulation does everything that the number 1 and the number 2 do combined without losing any of the effectiveness, plus a lot more. So the number 3 universal is the one that, sleep protocol, eye protocol, I mean, for healing cancer, for healing, brain glioblastoma, and, thyroid dysfunction, and I mean, you name it, everything under the sun. And all of those have different, the energy system, but the whole energy system is all interconnected. So it's, when you're treating one, you're treating the whole. But the red, again, creates that strong foundation, and root chakra, heart, all of that, blood, from a physical standpoint, you can kind of understand, what is the color of everything in our body, and energizing, but it's also reduces sleep, the paradox for that. So that's why with the other formulations that only the people in the community can order, because it's like you can use those other formulations for treating symptomatically, and we've seen an amazing response. But what I want people like full permanent healing. So you're taking care of everything. You're not just treating one symptom at a time. You're creating the strong foundation. You build up the whole energy body system and strengthen your whole physical body, and muscles and everything, bones. It's all interconnected. And then the other formulations can target and boost. It's kind of like you think something about a topic, and you've read 50 books on it, and then you do a deep dive on this one aspect of that topic, and you get this whole new level of awareness. Like I thought I understood it when I read, these 50 or 100 books on this topic, but now doing this deep dive into this one aspect, I can not only understand this one aspect more, I can understand how it all works together with the rest of the components. So that's with the energy system, for example, liver, gallbladder, and spleen and stomach energy, that is addressed by the REDjuvenator. Both of those energy systems that work hand in hand, they often go out of balance one after the other. So, and they're so integrated with so many of the psycho-emotional aspects in Western society, lack of nurturing or stress, a combination of those two things, lack of nurturing from home environment or lack of self-nurturing and stress, high pressure, whatever, all this pressure that we put on ourselves or parents put on their children or, children put on themselves. I mean, we come out of the womb and we kind of have these personalities that are already developed and, they can be modified through your family environment, but we're kind of like, we kind of have our personalities already, when you come out of the womb. That's why you see, people with different children are like, God, they're so different. I mean, even if you've got nine dogs and 2 cats, all mostly related, they're so unique and different. I mean, they're so different. I mean, their personalities, all of these things that, and it's all about learning. It's all, we come into this lifetime for an opportunity for learning and growth, and we get to choose these, elements, our family and things like that. And it's through our health challenges that we learn most, our relationships with others and our challenges in our health and healing process. So you can come through I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I didn't have so many I had massive health problems of my own. My liver didn't work for many, many years, like until I got the REDjuvenator, it didn't work properly at all. And prior to that, I learned how to manage the fact that it wasn't detoxifying. But my liver and gallbladder energy system and spleen stomach came from growing up in a turbulent household and lack of nurturing, and also lots and lots of stress and fight or flight, or am I going to be living, have to survive in the snow if I get kicked out. So all this very real stress. But even people that grow up, it's like you can have a traumatic event if your parent is 20 minutes late picking you up. I mean, and that can be create that and create a blockage in your energy system. So anyway, but does that kind of answer your question about the foundational aspect of the red?
Yeah, and I think it's important too, and I know you talk about this a lot, and I mean, I deal with this, with patients that I have at the clinic, but also people in my one-on-one practice. This is like the last stuff they gravitate to instead of the first, and you'll talk about it from the beginning. But they kind of don't think about this. They think it's woo, when really, if you understand how the world works, where everything has energy and frequency and things like that, this should be the root of everything that we're doing, is clearing these blockages. So what I don't want people to think is that they can go grab their REDjuvenator and all of a sudden everything's going to change, because you talk about blocks and definitions, your definition of sand in the gas tank. So for this to work, there also has to be some work from that person. So what are some of those things that you would say, like, yeah, this could work for you, but you need to get rid of some of that sand that you might have in the gas tank?
Yeah, so that's a term that I started coining several years ago to describe. It's like if you've got an old beat up car, like let's say you've got an old beat up car and it's like got hail damage and the paint's all chipping, and you can focus on making the exterior, beautify it, get rid of all the dents and dings, give it a new paint job, put in new leather seats, degunk, the hoses so that the fuel line, is cleaned out, and replace components. But if you don't put gas in the gas tank, your car's not going to go anywhere. You have to put the gas in the gas tank. I mean, otherwise it's just a big hunk of metal, right? So our physical body is like a car. And people focus very often on, well, I want my wrinkles to go away, and I want my hair to be lush and healthy, and I want my muscles to be able to grow, and I want, all this stuff that you see on the surface. It's like, well, the reason you have wrinkles, and the reason the muscles aren't growing, the reason that your hair is falling out is because the energy system, that the individual energy systems that govern those physical parts is deficient. It's not getting the energy that it needs, and your gas tank is running on fumes. So not only are there a bunch of, what I call kinks in the hose where the energy can't get through, it's your gas tank is running on fumes. So again, you can focus on all the beautification aspects, but you need to put the gas in the gas tank. At the same time, you don't want to take your nice, car and put sand in the gas tank, because that will gunk up everything. Like, it won't work. That's where the sand in the gas tank comes from. So the sand in the gas tank is very often, unhealthy diet, for one thing, eating like refined non-foods, because a big part of the American diet is kind of equivalent to putting plastic in your body. All these refined hydrogenated vegetable oils and all this other stuff, artificial flavors and natural flavors now, that natural flavors that to make people think it's not. Yeah. And everything that is, all the preservatives and chemicals. And you can look at the ingredients of some things and there's not a single food item. It's all fake. It's all chemical. It's like, so I tell people, read the labels of everything that you're putting into your body and onto your body, for one thing. So that's a big sand component. A lot of times when people come into the REDjuvenator community, as you've probably seen, they've already, that's the first thing they look at. It's like, okay, I've got to stop eating McDonald's. I got to start eating real food, especially if they're seriously ill, because then they start digging in their, because their Western doctor is going to say, here, take some more pills, put some more toxins into your body. We'll just make you think you don't have those symptoms temporarily. And then this pill will cause 10 new symptoms and we'll be able to give you 10 more pills. And how long do I take them? Well, forever. Just, the rest of your life. This is your new you. You might need some surgeries along the way to cut out perfectly good body parts that, have gotten degraded because you're not giving the energy. But anyway, so diet. But again, like I said, a lot of times that's the first point of entry. People look at their diet, start cleaning that up and start eating real food. They're often not looking at the energetic nature of foods though. So I teach people the importance of not just looking at the chemistry in the foods that you're eating, but also the energy aspect. What energy system do those foods address? So for example, you would think that eating, a salad or raw vegetables would be healthy, because it's kind of universally a healthy thing. Well, if they're organic, they don't contaminate with a bunch of pesticides and herbicides and all that sort of thing. So you're eating more toxins. But if you have weak spleen energy, spleen stomach energy, which is all about digestion, assimilation of nutrients, transforming fluids, and you put cold raw food into your stomach, it's a system that's already depleted. So for people that have a hard time losing weight, for example, or they have cellulite or beer belly or things like that, that's definitely like weak spleen stomach energy combined with liver gallbladder, toxicity. But it's very common. Like they think that they need to diet and they need to eat more salads and things like that. But it's like that energy system is already weak. So you're giving it food that now it has to work really hard. I mean, obviously it's better than putting McDonald's in there, but it's even better to lightly steam those vegetables. The cellulose is already broken down. So the stomach doesn't have to, the spleen stomach energy system, which governs the physical organs that are going to digest that food, doesn't have to work even more because it's already depleted. And it's like it has to use so much more energy to break down raw vegetables, fibers. And it has to warm up that cold food before it can even get started. So it's using a lot of valuable resources that are already in a depleted state. So even though you would think that eating raw vegetables and raw salads would be a good thing, but in that case, it's not. So you want to, lightly steam the vegetables. So even simple things like that. Vegetables are typically neutral or cooling. So those are usually going to be a good thing. But then there are a lot of foods that are very warming or hot, literally hot. A lot of times people are taking supplements, and this is another sand in the gas tank where, like, say I'm always tired. So, I'm taking this thing that, with astragalus and like garlic and ginger and all this stuff. And you look at it's like these are all hot ingredients. And you already had a lot of excess heat in your body because of the imbalance and the stuck energy. It's kind of like an engine rubbing all the time, vroom, 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 creating this excess heat. That's kind of a simple metaphor. But the mechanism where the energy is trying to flow and there's like weak spleen stomach energy, you're getting phlegm built up, like what I call the quagmire effect, and the energy can't get through. So it's like it's already like it can't get through, and you're adding all this heat, and then you start taking these supplements that are supposed to give you energy or be good for the blood, but they're actually putting more heat into your system. So they're making you actually worse because they're putting more heat into an already imbalanced, heating cooling system. So those are a couple of examples from the, just ingestible things. Obviously, anything that you're breathing in your home environment, people that are, putting these chemical perfume things or burning paraffin scented candles, and you're breathing that in all the time. Your lungs are supposed to be cleaning, and clearing toxins from your body. And every time you breathe in clean, fresh air, you expel gaseous waste. So it's one of the three biggest cleansing systems in our body. Urination, defecation, pooping, and breathing in and out. But if you're breathing in toxic chemicals with every breath, and you're trying to use that as a cleaning mechanism, you're adding more contamination into your body with every single breath. And it's a big one. It's really harmful for pets as well. So that's a very common thing that people don't even think about. And they, using chemical fragrance on your clothing, like these detergents and the, fabric softeners, that then you've got them against your body, and all that stuff is getting absorbed into your bloodstream right through your skin. Your skin is not this solid thing, it's porous. So anything that you put onto your body creams, these chemical scented body creams that have all kinds of garbage in them, and sunscreen that turn carcinogenic when people go under sunlight. They literally become carcinogenic. So all of that, sand in the gas tank, though, that's from physical, ingesting, putting on your skin, and then stress, sand in the gas tank, being in a situation, a stressful job, but a lot of times people choose stressful jobs because it's like they grew up in a stressful environment, and they're like, well, that's familiar. So, I'm going to be a, broker on Wall Street, like nice, relaxing job, like where you're under stress all the time, or anything that's a stressful situation, staying in a stressful relationship, or not learning how to communicate, or thinking, and a big thing people often, it's like, I have all this, but, it's everybody else's fault. Everybody else, it's everybody else is creating my problems in my life. So a big and self-empowering thing is realizing how are you, because everything that happens in your life is from you. Everything, every experience you attract into your life is coming from you. The energy that you broadcast is the energy that you attract to yourself. It's about getting rid of the sand in the gas tank, but also realizing that you have 100% power over all of those choices. You don't have to ever choose them. But a lot of times people don't know. They don't even, they're not aware. So it's bringing awareness, and what you're doing with your patients, it's like, it's a big part of it is teaching. Yeah. When I was working with patients, it's like, I want my patients to be like, here, I want to give you all the power, and then you go away. You don't ever need me again. That's my job, is to give you the tools that you need and to teach you. I don't want you to keep coming back. If you keep coming back, I'm not doing my job. So yeah. And that's why I created the community that was another download. It's like, I need to create a community. First of all, when I launched the REDjuvenator, it's like the community was already there. It's like, okay, everybody that's ordering one of these, get in the community. As soon as you get them, get in the community. Because first of all, people are going to have these amazing healing responses, and nobody's going to believe me if I tell you, I just knew. It's like, don't tell me. I want you guys to be able to talk to each other, so you can, that's like the nightmare for many companies. It's like, they don't want their customers talking to each other, because then they're like, this thing didn't work for me. No, it didn't work for me either. It's like, how much did you spend? $3,000. But anyway, so for that reason, but also for data compiling, so I always teach the pay it forward model. It's like, go out of your way to help others. And when you need something, everything will be provided for you. That's another constant in my life. I would just always go out of my way to help people because I enjoy doing that. And it was a reward in itself, but without ever a quid pro quo, like, okay, I did this for you, not me. That's the whole mindset of the affiliate, marketing. I don't do any of that. And you have this ability to take all this power back for yourself. And when you go out of your way to help others, you're creating flow in your life, because you're putting that energy forward. And everything in our lives is like, the whole chakra system. It's like a loop, the energy goes like this around our body. Mm-hmm. Everything flow is like energy goes out and energy comes back in. Energy goes out, energy comes back in. It's the same thing with money. People that I'm so afraid I'm going to lose my money, so they hang on to their money. It's like, yeah, but you're creating a blockage. It's not going to, abundance isn't going to come to you because you're afraid to spend the money, so spending money on your own health and healing process. It's like, sometimes, throwing away thousands of dollars on supplements is not a very wise choice, because you're making very expensive urine, and you're buying into this hopium and all the marketing hype about, oh, this is gonna, one pill is gonna fix all my problems. But you're putting all of your eggs in one basket, hoping that this one thing fixes you. But really, that's not an interactive experience. It's about learning and taking back that power for yourself, and then making wise choices about, what am I going to put into my body? What am I going to put onto my body? And what am I going to bring into my energy field. Like, who am I going to allow into my inner circle? All of that it's all a conscious choice. And the more you do it and the more you focus on, realizing you're not a victim, because nobody's a victim. Nobody's a victim without choosing to be a victim. It's a choice. So the things that happen to you, and cancer doesn't just attack you. Cancer is you. The cancer is coming from within. So it's not this whole like, you're a victim of cancer, or what are some other terms? They're all like these disempowering terms. Like, and then like, oh, poor me, I have cancer. It's like, well, great. It's a wonderful learning opportunity. Let's get going.
Before we go, I've got one, I'm going to let you tell people how to connect with you. But before that, do you want to just give them a list of a couple of some of the transformations that you have seen within the group? And because there's a pretty long list of
well,
things you've seen happen.
I mean, some of the most common ones, healing stage 4 cancer, brain glioblastoma, my girl that was supposed to be dead in 3 weeks. I mean, that they're, these remarkable healing experiences. Not everybody's dealing with, life or death, but we have tons and tons of complete reversal of life or death situations, and tons of them with pets also. Pets, it's like, that's the placebo effect. It's like, well, tell your pet, here, I use this thing and it's going to fix you. And the pet goes, okay, I believe you. Some of the common things that people are, convinced, oh, my thyroid doesn't work, but we have like within 1 week, 1 to 2 weeks at the most, that complete thyroid balancing. You're like off their drugs completely. I mean, even for people that have been taking them for decades, including medical doctors that were taking thyroid drugs and then, use the REDjuvenator healing. Cancer is probably a big one because people are so conditioned to believe that cancer is this terrible thing, it's unhealable, and you have to do these toxic treatments like chemo and radiation to kill the cancer. It's like, yeah, but you're killing the host at the same time.
That's sand in the gas tank.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's like you've already got a bunch of sand in your gas tank.
Right. Now you're gonna put more.
And then like, what, but I'm wiped out after my chemo treatments. I'm like, it's getting worse and worse. It's like, I'm like, yes, because you're putting more and more toxic overload. Focus on getting the toxins out, getting the, fill up the gas tank, the life force energy gas tank, open up the channels. The cancer can't survive in that kind of environment, And like I said, the people are usually, the first things they address is the food element. Not always the choosing the right foods, but better than eating the garbage in McDonald's. But some other ones are, dementia, reversal of dementia, where people like diagnosed with dementia and then all of a sudden their brain starts working again and they're able to think. Or very common, brain fog. I can't think, focus, that's spleen stomach energy again. So all of that. All kinds of eye-related things. I mean, I had severe retinal thinning. I literally was losing my vision, and it was just, frog in the boiling water from having weak toxic liver gallbladder energy system for so many years, which governs the eyes, by the way. But then also using my phone for so many years and blue light from this, going into my eyes, where I couldn't even read my phone's like this. Sometimes take out a contact lens so I could read the screen, and I couldn't watch movie. I mean, I could, but I would have double vision. It was just, It was incredible. Started doing the eye protocol with the number 3, and like within the first week, everything starts getting clear. And then 3 months later, I went, and it's like no retinal thinning. So we've had tons of people that have completely healed age-related macular degeneration, all kinds of eye-related stuff. The first thing that people, when they were doing their facial treatments, how we came up with the eye protocol in the first place. Again, this interactive part of the community. One of the first things, like a lot of people intuitively, because I'm like, you can keep your eyes out. It's not going to be harmful, but if you have any concerns, just close your eyes or cover them or whatever. I put that from day one. It's like, don't do anything that you feel is going to be, you're worried about, because you don't want to be worried. But a lot of people started like doing, 3-minute facial treatments with the REDjuvenator, and they're like, I feel like keeping my eye open. So, or they're doing this. Most people, this is what I do.
Yeah, I do one side at a time.
Well, I can watch my video.
Yeah.
That's the treatment I shared in the group a while ago. It's like, I can't just sit still and do one thing. Even like 3 minutes doing this is like, I have so much energy all the time. Sitting still is a challenge for me, as you've probably seen. I use a lot of hand gestures. Anyway, so yeah, and then people are like, oh my God, my floaters are gone. Like, I've had terrible floaters for years, so their floaters disappear. And then they're like, my vision's getting better. I have like people in their, 60s, 70s, 80s and their vision, and they go, it's like I put my glasses on and everything's blurry, and I go get my eyes checked, and my eye doctor almost falls over because it's like my vision has gotten better, so my glasses are too strong for me. We tons and tons of stories like that. I mean, I reversed I've had terrible, vision for years and years because, again, wearing contacts, but I have 6 contact lens levels, reversing. So, like going backwards, like my eyes are stronger and stronger. And obviously no more severe retinal thing that, is, so, I mean, the list just goes, I mean, you probably know what seems significant to, I mean, we've had so many pets that have come back from the brink of death too.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, pets, I know my friend Kelly, who introduced me to it, she had a dog that was dealing with Lyme and was like fairly immobile. And then she used the light and the dog was running around like nothing happened. I love the pet stories. And I know my dogs, when I first got it, they were really gravitating to it. And then my little one, my youngest one, I swear he is like the king of the circadian rhythm and just is so attracted to anything that has to do with light. Like, it's fascinating to watch. In the morning, he wants to be outside. He doesn't care how hot it is. He wants to be in the sun on the couch. And at night, he wants to go to bed as soon as the sun sets. So he's perfect. And then for my own use, I see a lot of skin things in there that have cleared up, from people that have had skin issues in the group. But also from my own standpoint, I broke a toe. I dropped a weight on my toe. And I think I shared that picture too. It was like it turned way red right away. I put the light on. It got red real quick. And then the next day was amazing because I could walk and it was starting to already like change healing colors within 24 hours. So, I mean, I do that. I do a lot of the detox protocol. I'll put it on my back also for my knee. It's been great because I had osteoarthritis. I don't feel my osteoarthritis, and I think this is part of the reason why I'm able to run if I want. So I think I probably have a handful of stories on my own. So I definitely believe in it. I mean, I've recommended it to patients and to clients of mine very much. And I just appreciate everything you do, and that, the protocols are huge because the meridians, ignoring those would make it really challenging to get something unstuck if we're not treating meridians. So like, I really enjoy like just seeing the protocols. Used it for the pineal gland.
what did you do?
Up here on the head. I was having some issues with sleep, and I did feel like that, and I do use it on my chest too at night before I go to bed. But the pineal gland was just, there was some kind of block, some kind of dysregulation there. I did have it. I used it up here for, I want to say 3 or 4 minutes up here. And I mean, I slept like a baby. I mean, I can see my tracker, the difference in my sleep. So I definitely, I wouldn't have you on. I wouldn't be talking about it like this if I didn't vouch for it. I think people know me by now that I don't put anything on there that I really haven't used or someone that I don't know. So if you want to, why don't you let people know how they can connect with you and what is the best way to connect? I know you talked about your website, and of course we'll link everything for everyone, but if you want to talk about the best way to connect with you, I know you're always willing to answer a question too for people if they have it.
Yes. Yeah, and I have so I have 2 websites, catalyticcolor.com, CATALYTIC, catalytic, like catalytic converter, color, the American spelling, not the Canadian British spelling, COLOR.com is one of my websites. My first and last name is also another one. They're interconnected, so they kind of will, like if you go to Leanne Venier, LEANNE, V as in Victor, ENIER.com, anything that you click on about the REDjuvenator will take you over to the other website as well. I'm also on Instagram. A lot of people follow me on there. I have people that post, testimonials from the group with permission, always with permission. So you can go to my Instagram, which is all of my social things are my first and last name, Leanne Venier, assistant, whether it's Facebook or Facebook. And Instagram, Twitter, or X, everything, YouTube, it's all just my first and last name.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate the time you took today to talk about this. The story, I mean, I knew part of your story and how it all connected, but wow, to hear the whole thing is pretty amazing. That's when you know the stars are aligned and you're supposed to.
I loved our conversation. Yeah, and any of those means, and there's a contact page on my website also, and there's videos on my website, tons of stuff on my YouTube channel. So lots of ways people can learn more.
Thank you very much.
If you enjoy the podcast, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media. I am at Whole Health Christy on Instagram and Facebook, and now TikTok. Let me know what resonated most or what you want to hear in the future. You can always find full show notes and past episodes at christyhugic.com/podcast. Please take a moment to like, follow, review, and always share the podcast with anyone who might benefit. A quick review on Apple Podcasts goes a long way in helping me bring more of these amazing guests your way. Stay tuned for the next episode of Ripple Effect Connection. Together, let's create waves of change.